Welcome everybody to a bit of a different take on our current format. This is a hot little video that we're putting out for you that Alex came to me with a little bit of an idea and said, I want you going in blind, not understanding what I'm talking about, because I've got some brilliant, fabulous ideas, and just by looking at the picture I get a sense of maybe what we're going to be talking about this evening. But hello Alex, good to see you. We're not even going to spend any time doing intros because you've got a lot to talk about tonight. Clearly we're going to be talking about Kislev in some capacity, so why don't we just
if the title hasn't given it away, the image definitely has. The title of the video.
Let's tick over to our Patreon slide, which I'm sure is next. Thank you to our current Patreons, set of 6, keeping us going. As always, if you want to become our Patreon with our very, very low supporter level, you can do that through the link in the video description. But thank you, Death1942, Ghost, Joshua 6, Silver Dave, and Jeff. Okay, Alex, dazzle me.
Okay, let me give you some background. Now, everybody is on the hype train for Cathay, right? Great models, great release. We'll probably talk about it in our next All-In episode, I'm sure. Lots of speculation videos. But all I want is my dear beloved Kislev. So instead, what we're going to do is speculate about Kislev using a couple of different sources, let's call it that, but focusing only today on the cavalry, right? Because there's one thing we want, or I want, in the old world, which shall be revealed in due course through this video. So
fabulous. I'm all up for some baseless speculation.
Absolutely. We'll be accused of clickbaitiness and all of that. But if we're remotely true, we can then say, oh, look, we were right. We were right. To our, very small...
Before we go any further and you tell us some history about profiles and where the army was the last time that we saw it on the tabletop, why don't you tell the people a little bit about your relationship with the army?
With Kislev itself. So, way back in 6th edition, I picked up the Kislev leaflet that came in a White Dwarf. But I never really collected them until Total War Warhammer 3 came out. And I pretty much played them endlessly for hundreds of hours, right? Mostly because they were the easiest faction to play at that time. And Ice Magic was fantastic. But, if we have a look at this quick slide in our source material, I didn't know this, but actually Kislev was first mentioned in 1988 in this supplement called Something Rotten in Kislev. And it was all fantasy roleplay. Quick segue, apparently there's a old world role-playing game coming out soon.
Yes, there is of course the Warhammer role-playing game, which has sustained even through end times and everything else, but interesting around there being an old
new one. Yes,
of that.
A
interesting.
New one. So that obviously sparked enough interest and I'm sure some of the historians amongst us would probably come up with a bit of a better timeline than what we've done here. But I don't have anything from that book because we're going to focus probably most of our time on the following two. So again, I had the original 2003 Kislev supplement book, which came in the White Dwarf. And look at the front cover, Alistair. Can you tell me why someone might be attracted to Kislev in the old world looking at that front cover?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from. The infantry in the background with guns, that's definitely why people would be interested in Kislev. Of course,
I
it's the
I was referring to the snow and the trees, but yes.
yeah, no, oh, right, of course. Sorry, more
Yeah. Yeah. We're
AK-200s.
going winter. We're going more
But no, clearly you're talking about bear cavalry, which if
Yes.
we were to see any flagship product coming as a result of a Kislev release, we will see bear cavalry.
We should. We should. Now, like Cathay, though, I think most of what we're going to see is going to be a straight copy and paste out of Warhammer Total War 3,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is launched in 2022. Great opening cinematic, lots of rich uh, gameplay styles that came within it. Why don't you give us a quick breakdown? Because you played the game a lot as well, as to how Kislev played in Total War 3
I'm
compared to, let's
just
say, Empire.
I'm just having an entirely depressing look at my playtime on Steam between the original Total War Warhammer, Total War 2, and Total War 3.
Mhm.
And I'm sure there are those out there who have played nothing but given that I play quite a number of games, an investment like that, I think I have about 4,500 hours in total, Total War Warhammer. So yeah, I suppose yeah, the army in Total War Warhammer 3 is a relatively different take. I suppose they've got much stronger missile infantry than the other human factions, the Empire and Bretonia. They have a lot of cavalry options, both melee cavalry and missile cavalry options. I think they've got some horse archers. They've got a couple of types of wing lancers, maybe a specific like knight class. I'm not entirely sure. There are, of course, the war bears. Then there's a bunch of things. There's chariots. There's heavy bear-dragged war sleds. There's bears on their own. There's all sorts of different things. I think the latest releases had a fun little segue into like a Baba Yaga
Yes.
style thing. There
Beasts where
is
she controlled bears and spiders and
yes,
yeah.
I think funny that you should maybe speculate or we should maybe speculate about the big stuff that we might see. I wonder whether or not we'd get a kit for an elemental bear after seeing the Cathay
Sure.
Jade Guardians, whether we'd
Has to.
see a kit for a giant
Giant bear.
massive elemental bear and of course the cannon, the huge bear dragged Grom cannon.
Yes. Yeah.
That'd be
Yep.
that'd be a super fun one. Um, but
Yep.
it's a yeah play style similar-ish to Empire, obviously with that snow and ice theme. But from sort of experience, they're a lot more armored. They're a lot more durable. They'll stick around a lot longer. Their missile capability is generally a bit stronger as well. They have multi-skilled infantry that are
Size with different types
yeah
of weapons. Yeah.
their missile infantry, and they're actually quite strong melee combatants. So yeah, I think the army itself, I think you're right, the army itself will see it will be a rip from Total War Warhammer
Yep.
3. There will be callbacks to the supplement, which I'm sure you're going to perhaps lend us your insights on
Hmm?
what those might look like. But I definitely think after we've seen Cathay and exactly what's come out of them, we're going to see something very similar for Kislev when we get to that point.
I think so. And the reason why I firmly believe Kislev is coming is because way back when Old World was announced, we actually
Mm.
had articles with sketch drawings of
Mm-hmm.
Ice Guard infantry,
Mm-hmm.
bears,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So the the you'll see those as we
Mm-hmm.
go through
Mm-hmm.
this. But the purpose of that is it must be there. The IP has to be there, right? Like something must have been feeding the Sega engine to create, or Creative Assembly to create Total War and the units. And oh, look, the same IP created Cathay behind that. Such a coincidence that's the same. So we'll go through that. So we won't leave it hanging every longer, and we'll dive straight into the first unit on the
Mm-hmm.
cavalry. We're going to go, of course, starting with light through to the heaviest. maybe the meatiest, as we might say.
As
The
you in
Ungol,
particular might say. Yeah, go on.
the Ungol Horse Archer. So classic model here, your typical light cavalry unit, very Slavic themed, hit and run with bows, etc. You can see the original unit profile right there. Back in the day, 17 points a model, came with a bow, the horse, and they only had one special rule, which was fast cavalry, and that was it. So they were just a standard human, but with higher ballistic skill and were just zipping around. But of course, it was a very different game back then. So, what are some of the extrapolations we can take from this? Well, of course, they're going to be open order, probably skirmish, as we can see them running around with the bows, fast cavalry, which of course comes with associated rules. I'll skip the next few for a bit. Swift Stride, guaranteed. Likely Vanguard or Scout, as we can see there. And in Total War, you can see on the right-hand side they've got Vanguard. So probably an upgrade in those regards. Now, I'm saying they're likely to have Fire and Flee and Move and Shoot within the profile. So they can go their full 16 inches with the whole historical theme of these guys are on horseback from kids, from an early age. And go the full 16 inches as fast cavalry, still get the pivot, and still be able to shoot their bows as ballistic skill 4.
Mm-hmm. I think you're dreaming. As far as these guys
If you think
go,
this is dreaming, you've got a lot right.
I feel like my
concern.
role. I see why you've come to me. My role here is to play devil's advocate. I love your optimism. I feel like you'll probably see them back at BS3 along with most humans. That said, I agree with Fire and Flee. I agree with fast cavalry, open order and
Yep.
skirmish, Swift Stride, obviously, Vanguard, maybe the Scout upgrade. They've been giving that to a lot
Yeah,
of
and I think
Vanguard
those will be
cavalry.
paid upgrades.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
maybe,
yeah. So
maybe Vanguard is standard.
I think they'll probably have maybe the option for Feign Flight. So the paid option for Feign Flight to
Yes,
allow
to
them
upgrade from
to.
Fire and Flee.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
And then well, it's not the upgrade from, it's the addition to, right? Because Fire
Sorry,
and Flee
probably
allows you
yes.
to do the fire and the flee, and then the Flame Flight
The
lets you
automatic
rally.
rally.
But I think the other thing, because I'm just looking at maybe the Mounted Yeoman profile is maybe the closest to this, the closest parallel that's on the board at the moment, and I think they'll probably end up being a bit stronger than that. But I actually wonder, given Kislev and the composition of it, and maybe the way that they'll approach it, particularly with the horse archers, maybe these guys get levies. Maybe they actually do end up with levies. I mean, it suits the fluff a little bit.
Yep.
And we may sort of end up seeing it like that.
That was the supplement for Kislev. It
Mm.
was very much themed as it's not a whole army, it's an allied contingent that
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing in. And in fact, some of the units had a specific, these guys can be taken as mercenaries in Empire and other factions, etc. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's and you've got me now just thinking, God, I hope they don't come back as like a mercenary like add-on like this. I want them as a full release, inside of that.
No,
But
I think they'll be full release, but rather than move and shoot, because I
yep.
don't feel they're going to get move and shoot. I
Mhm.
think they'll just be armed with short bows, which have quick shot. So
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I also feel maybe the horse archer thing might lend itself to a special rule or two that might just improve their capability just a little bit more. I mean, maybe you will be right with BS4, right? Because you take Outriders, for example, you take some of the skirmish cav or open order cav out of Empire that are BS4 or can be BS4. The Road Wardens are another great example of that. Maybe if they're priced in that range, they'll end up being that little bit more powerful. But yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, good
I,
start. Good
well,
start.
good start. I think this is probably the one that's the least contentious
Okay, okay. Lead
of them all.
us into the
On
clickbait.
them all.
Let's
Well,
go.
we have to consider something, right? Very quickly. Now, as we look at the next few profiles. Now, Alistair,
Mm-hmm.
previously
Mm-hmm.
in the old supplement, there was a rule called Glorious Charge, which was, the winged lancers, big, whistling,
Yep.
feathers,
Yep.
sheening,
Yep.
shields, etc. And back in the day, used to cause a panic check
Mm.
when you charged an enemy unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Total War, if I remember correctly, they basically doubled their charge bonus in the game if they had a full momentum charge uh, within the computer game. So, what I've done is I've thought, how is that going to translate? Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. But I just feel like they're either going to get some sort of fear out of this before I click on the next slide, fear, or I don't know what causes you to take a leadership check when you get declared a charge on
They're
terror.
not. They're not getting terror, Alex. They're not getting terror. I can see. I can absolutely see a special rule.
A special rule.
I'll let
Special
you.
rule.
I'll let you talk through the profile
Yeah.
in a second. I can absolutely see a special rule that says on a turn this unit charges, they gain fear. Right? Can
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can absolutely see that happening.
Yeah.
Terror.
Something. Maybe. Well, that's why I thought about this, and you can see the rules on the left-hand side where it did, shrieking banners, etc. They back in the day it said, with a unit strength of 5 or more. But in old world, that's literally 3 models.
It is.
It's like that's ridiculous. So I feel like you're going to need more like 10,
Although
potentially even like 20.
the perhaps maybe reading the end wording of that special rule as if it had been charged in the flank when it's engaged in the front. Perhaps that then translates as whenever they charge, they count as being in the flank. So they cause, they might
get the
disrupt
extra
a
initiative.
unit. They might
They can
get
go up
the
to
extra
+4
combat resolution
initiative.
point.
Yep. Yeah, as if they're in the flank. Yeah, that also too. I actually did have that as a variance, but I realized there was so much text on this assumptions page that I wanted to bring it back.
Okay.
So, and I thought, if you look at the Empire Knight, actually, a standard Empire Knight has a lot of rules, like has counter charge and a
Quite a
few
few.
other things. Now, I just thought, I just can't feel like they're just going to export everything to the Winged Lancers, right? So I don't think that they'll have counter charge
Really?
as standard. Well, this is just my speculation because I feel like if I'm the designer, I want them hitting really hard. And if you're giving them some sort of charge mechanic bonus, I feel like adding counter charge to that on a core unit is way too much, right? Because just imagine if they had counter charge and they did get that extra initiative and extra combat resolution, suddenly their highest initiative,
But
etc.
the way I see it, maybe balancing out that profile if they retained that sort of format. There's no barding there, so heavy armor and a shield.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Is just that's just a 4-up armor save. I can absolutely see that. Weapon skill 4,
Yeah.
strength and toughness 3, 4-up armor save. I can see that being a parallel to the Empire Knight, which has a 3-up armor save and has all those rules. The only thing that I'd say maybe wouldn't extend to it would be the option to grab drilled, because
I don't think so.
no, the whole concept of drilled in the old world is very much tied to the ability for them to demonstrate that they've done lots of maneuvers over and over. And as you point out, with it being more of a sort of Confederate style army rather than it is a standing army or a series of militaristic orders that are joining together. If it's more levy based, if it's more ad hoc, I can't see them getting the option for drilled. The slightly more elite version, which I have in mind,
I was about to say
maybe,
not this version.
but
And the
not
thing
this
is we're about to go on to that. The Gryphon Legion, which
Right, oh, yeah,
is
that's
back
what
in the
they call
day
it.
0 to 1. Now when I was creating this, if you start adding things like counter charge, drilled, suddenly there's actually very little difference between the two units that we went into. So I think if we take the standard that these are core units, they'll give them some sort of absolutely charge mechanic buff that will take them in there. I'm still going to stick with the some sort of panic check causing. I mean, it might just be a rule, right?
They may frankly just boil it down to
Yeah.
Furious Charge, and they go, great, you get Furious Charge.
It could be. It could be some sort of way for that. So, okay, let's move on. But by the way, I love that we have the old photos and the new ones from Total War, which is, again, I'm fully expecting the models to look exactly like a port from the Total War.
Yeah.
No barding, as you say, on that horse. At all. So, the Gryphon Legion. So again, these are the way more elite units. Interestingly, on the old profile, they had the mercenaries rule, which, God, I hope it doesn't have mercenary rules in the new one, because those are interesting.
I'd honestly, I'd maybe say that the way mercenaries are going at the moment, I think we're likely to see a couple of Kislev units with mercenaries. I genuinely
As the
think
ability
we
to be
are.
taken.
As
For
the
sure.
ability to be taken
For
as
sure.
mercenaries. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, it might follow the same route as the Doomseeker and Dwarves, where
Yeah.
taking specific HQ units like that, unlocks them around the place.
Yeah.
So again, the Gryphon Legion back in the day was 0 to 1. Definitely, I could see that in old world, like 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. In
Maybe.
those regards, or even they might go the route of chosen, which is 0 to 1 entirely per army. But this is going to be your classic special unit, all the upgrades, extra magic banners, etc. Here I've said same things, right? First charge, the glorious charge speculation we've got here. Counter charge, I can see on this more elite unit, as we can see. Stubborn there. I mean, there is a bit of an undercurrent in the Kislev theme around leadership, where they're really around stubborn. I mean, if we looked at the infantry versions of Hussars, etc., they actually have a stubborn equivalency type of ruling in them, which I can see them passing through. And you can see in the artwork from Total War, those are heavily, armored boys. Absolutely. So, again, probably full plate.
But are they Chaos Warrior heavily?
Don't go there. Do not go there.
So I can't help but draw a parallel between these guys and Inner Circle Knights.
I know. Yes, I did the same thing. Yeah.
And so I'm losing my light source here. And so I think the way I look at this and the way that I think it might end up shaping up is the profile's relatively spot on. There'll be weapon skill 4. There'll be strength 4 probably in the same way that Inner Circle Knights are strength 4.
Yep.
They'll share whatever that glorious charge special rule is with the winged lancers. I think that's a very easy thing to draw a parallel along. And I think similar to the Empire Knight Inner Circle Knight comparison, you'll have a couple of upgrades that were available to the Empire Knights to pay for that are then built into this one. Yep. Now, that to me says maybe they'll get stubborn with the opportunity to buy drilled.
Yep, potentially.
Where like it's a bit of a flip again. The Inner Circle Knights are drilled with the opportunity to buy stubborn. And so I think you'll probably see it along those lines. Whether or not they end up with a 2-up armor save, I'm not convinced. And the only reason why I'm not convinced about that has been the way that the other profiles have sort of shaped up. Now, of course, we have to remember that in the good old days, armor was quite different. In some editions, even just being mounted gave you +1 to your armor save.
It used to be.
So there is a bit of balance and understanding that we have to see when looking at these 6th ed profiles, that maybe things will be a little bit different. But yeah, I think you're pretty on the money. I don't think there's anything really too controversial about these guys being an inclusion. I don't think they'll be as restricted as you think. I actually think they'll just be expensive.
Yeah. Now, can we just identify something fantastic? In the old days, upgrade one Lancer champion for 16 points. However, the champion may exchange his lance for a pistol for free. I mean, no one's doing that in the whole world.
I mean, it could be, because again, remember with the way that with the way that Total War ended up shaping up with a lot of the unit profiles, it could be that they'll give unit champions like the option to take this real panoply of exotic weapons in the way that, you know, they've done for other armies. So maybe the whole unit can end up with pistols. Like
Pistols. I mean, it would be funny.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
It would be very entertaining.
Different is definitely the word I would use. So, I mean, I think the standardization of the human knight will be in these guys normally, and the glorious charge mechanic will be what sets them apart from the inner circle knights, etc. As you said, maybe furious charge, then they kind of become like a chosen knight with 2 attacks, etc.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for both, to be honest, for both the Wing Lancers and the Gryphon Legion. The whole aesthetic, as far as my understanding goes, or as far the whole spirit of the unit, is that it's extremely hard hitting, that it delivers these incredible charges, that I think we're likely to see augments that benefited in that way, that allow you to really lean into the fact that they are there to deliver this front-on charge, and they don't have to be sort of weaving around and looking for opportunities to get in the side. Now, it's thinking about this. There will obviously be clear distinctions between what is Empire and what is Kislev, but I feel like Kislev is and has always been the closest relative of the Empire rules wise. So I'm more confident if we were doing Cathay and we were speculating about their cavalry profiles,
Jade Knights and all that.
I'd be thinking something entirely different. And I'd be trying to find some weird, you know, old Han Empire style militaristic rule that might apply to sort of how they look. When I look at this, I think they're a little less disciplined than Empire Grand Army formations, but they would share probably a lot of the special rules in their design.
Yep.
And I feel like that's the way that it's going to be. They're going to be variants on what we see as existing within Empire, but I'm a lot more conservative than you and thinking of the revolution for Kislev. I don't think it's going to be that much different.
The other thing is, I have seen some commentary on this. Maybe they might have hatred Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as an army-wide special rule.
Yeah, because they are the bulwark against
it would be
chaos in 9 out of 10 invasions.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. Okay, now we have to go a bit hyperbolic here on the next one. So let's switch over to
Boris. Love him.
Boris, right? He was on the front cover of it, the bare-mounted Tzar. Now, anyone that knows Boris, he basically got Urskin, his bear, when he was melee fighting the bear, right, in the lore. God knows how he was living through that. Wolves attacked him and Urskin, and Boris saved Urskin from a couple of wolves, who then in turn got ripped to shred by the bear, and then their love story began, as classic. You know, as it might be. Classic. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, by the way, I don't think Boris will be alive in the old world. I don't think that's
no. There's 2 figures, and I'm just having a look for it.
Okay,
now.
You have a look. But the reason why I bring him up is because this is an example that, bear mounted characters and units existed. We have it right here. You could take Boris, and he did. Looking at the rules, there was if they ported exactly what they have there to old world, it'd make a lot of happy people on those things. So there's a couple of different ones there, right? So he's Kin of the Bear God. If Boris is taken as your leader of your ally contingent, Kossars, maybe Kin of the Bear cost at 30 points per model. They gain +1 attack in the turn they charge, which is again the Furious Charge port.
Yeah, I'd see that. Maybe as thinking again Empire with knightly orders, the tutelage and guard, one unit.
Yeah.
One unit can be, for a point each, be awarded the Guardians of the Temple title, which gives them rerolls. I can see a unit per army, a unit of Gryphon Legion or Winged Lancers, having that ability to pay like a Biggins upgrade. Like it's exactly that style of, one unit gets to be themed around Kin of the Bear God, and they get Furious Charge baked in, right?
Yep.
I can see that for sure.
Now, Armor of Urskin, I think, is just a throwaway magic item, full plate.
I think you'll see a variation of it in the book.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think it'll be ported into as a magic item to be chosen.
Yeah.
Shardblade again will be another one that's ported, and probably the 75-point severely overcosted great weapon, which we can say here, adds 2 strength. But suffer a toughness test or takes extra wounds on that regard. But that would be my guess for the extremely overcosted item that no one's going to take on those. Urskin came with a 5-up save. That's an easy one. Armored Hide for bear-mounted characters in general. Causes fear. Of course he causes fear. He's a bear. And fury. So, he must pursue in those regards.
Yeah, I see. So the first place my mind takes me is to Demogryph Knights. As being the on the table parallel for the bears, with some granted sort of variations, because of course you don't just want to create a clone of Demogryph Knights for Kislev. The strength, I can certainly see that staying at strength 5. The toughness, I can see that staying at toughness 4. I'd probably see there be like an armored hide rule going in, saying that rather than barding, they have armored hide, which gives the riders that extra bonus.
Agreed. Well, let's test your thinking.
Okay, go on. I'm assuming there's more. There's more.
There's one more.
Okay.
Absolutely, there's one more slide. Which is
I see.
now I've just ported a bit of MS Paint skills right here. This is peak Warhammer content.
Different
fonts, different everything.
Font error.
Yeah, it's fine. That will be forgiven. But if we look at how they're described in Total War, you can see they're considered melee cavalry rather than shock cavalry, fury in number, etc. You can see the artist drawing from Warhammer community, so we know that it's there. We can see in Total War. Interestingly, they've got those tusks added to them, which we could speculate on potentially as impact hits. But in your comparison to demigryphs, the only thing I was going to say is I think there might be a demigryph, but not as fast, right, and not as impactful in terms of what I don't think that they'll have Swift Ride, for example.
Yeah, really interesting.
Because I'm taking more of the stance of a Dragon Ogre, which is 4-legged, no swift stride, mover. I think they'll keep strength 5. Over there. I think they'll keep toughness 5 as well.
Maybe.
But I think they're going to be slow. One attack from the bear rider, same as demigryphs, right? Like the guy on top. The bear's going to be doing most of the damage. I think they're going to be low weapon skill. Demigryphs are weapon skill
4.
4? Or 5.
No, they're weapon skill 4. They're weapon skill 4.
Cool.
The riders and the demigryphs are both weapon skill 4.
Yeah.
I would see the bear as weapon skill 4, to be honest.
We'll see.
I think there'll be a trade-off of either toughness 5 or 4 wounds. I could see toughness 4 with 4 wounds for sure. I could see toughness 5 with 3 wounds. I don't think we're going to get toughness 5 with 4 wounds.
I'm going 4 wounds.
With your comparison to Dragon Ogres, which are toughness 4 with 4 wounds, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be. Like it's going to be an 80-point model if you're going to be looking at.
Could be. It could be. As we see that fewer in number, slower, weaker.
Juggernauts of Khorne.
Yep.
Do they have Swift
Yeah.
Stride?
They do have Swift Stride.
What's their movement?
7.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
I see the Bears still being movement 7 Swift Stride.
Okay, so
I
you're
get
calling movement 7 Swift Stride.
just given the parallels on the
Yeah.
board right now of this monstrous cavalry approach. The
Yeah.
only time they tend to lose Swift Stride is when they get attached to a chariot. So I would definitely see it having Swift Stride and probably being movement 7. But again, that's an approach based on me saying also they're either going to be toughness 4 with 3 wounds or 4 wounds, or they'll be toughness 5 with 3 wounds. I don't see them being this really heavy tank unit, which is what your approach is more looking at.
Yep.
I see stomps for them. I'm not sure about impetuous. I wonder at the application of impetuous in the army book as a whole, because of course what they might end up doing for the winged lancers, for example, is making them 4 points cheaper than an Empire Knight equivalent, but giving them impetuous.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't even consider that at all. Like they want to prove themselves, etc. Now, the reason why I was going with impetuous is because in the Urskin ruling, they spoke about how he's a frenzied bear, right, etc. Like I can't imagine them giving bears frenzy.
Well, I see maybe a draw in from the Dark Elf book here, and I see maybe a turn-based leadership check that ends up with them either ending up being controlled or ending up being frenzied.
The Manticores.
Well, like the Manticore, or like with the stupidity parallel of Cold One Riders. I could even see them with stupidity, to be honest, and maybe that's the big drawback. They might end up still being movement 7 with Swift Stride, but they have to deal with stupidity, and stupidity is the sort of counterbalance to a lot of these really nice improved rules.
To the tank unit,
yeah.
I feel like they're just gonna be maybe. I feel like you're right. Toughness 4, 4 wounds. So there's gonna be a 4 there, at least somewhere, right?
There will be toughness 4 minimum. There's no argument about
absolutely.
that. I kind of feel with the scale that they've gone through in that image as well, I see where you're coming from with toughness 5 as well, because that scale is significantly larger than even the Demigryph Knight scale.
Well,
So
I don't even know how they're gonna fit that on a 50 by 75 base, but they'll make it work.
No, they'll fit it. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for the demigryphs on those bases.
And what do you think about? I think in that drawing, the barding, as you say, it's not going to be barding. It's just going to be the arm and hide. 1 to 2 roll. Maybe 2 is a stretch, and I'm just.
I think they'll end up with a 2-up armor save.
That's what I was going for. Because look, you know how I just love demigryphs having a 2-up save. I'm just the greatest proponent of that madness. But if it's not a 2-up save, it's wounds, right? Because I just feel like
I agree.
They're going to be a brawler unit and moving around.
Yeah, but the way I honestly look at demigryphs is they're a brawler unit. You don't worry about flank charges with demigryphs.
Oh, they just have counter charge.
They are durable and they are strong and they grind, and that's exactly what I look at when I look at the bears. I do think you might be onto something with the stomps, though.
Now, let me. Are you vibing the artistic?
No, not at all. I don't think you're going to get impact hits. I don't think you're going to get impact hits. I do think you might get stomps.
I think we definitely get stomps.
The reason I say that is obviously Demigryph Knights used to stomp. Let's wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. As always, come along to the YouTube channel, subscribe, and give us a like. Obviously, every little bit helps. If you'd like to become a Patreon to support us, you'll find that in the video notes as well. But thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we will see you on the next one.